All right, so for those of you who know anybody in the military, you're supposed to wear your hat or your cover outside, but I'm going to break with that tradition and just talk to you without that on, okay? Good morning, and welcome to Washington, D.C. I am connected to you in a certain way, so I went to high school, about 20 miles away from you all. I went to Salisbury School, which is just up the road from all of you. And so I was just actually up in the Berkshires, and man, do you guys have it awesome up there. I miss that place. Well, welcome to Washington, D.C. Sorry about the hurricane or the tornadoes. So this is the Pentagon. This is the world's largest office building. There's some really interesting history about this building, and I'm not a historian. And it's interesting to be a student of whatever it is you do. Now, your professional job right now is student, but as you grow up, your job will be to be a lifelong learner in whatever it is you do. You want to go into finance, you want to go into construction, whatever it is, you get better at it by learning about it. So this building was actually designed before World War II actually started. And America wasn't in the best place before World War II started. Kind of coming out of the Great Depression, doing a whole lot better than parts of Europe, that's for sure. But this is also one of the world's largest all-concrete structures. So we didn't have a lot of steel in America in the early 1940s. This is one of the largest concrete structures in the whole world. Again, you can Wikipedia this thing. So who works in here? The two most important people in the U.S. military work in here. The Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The Secretary of Defense is appointed by the President, congressionally approved, to be the senior civilian leader of our military. So there's a lot of stuff on TV about politics, and I don't get into any of that, okay? But what I do know is that our Constitution and all of our laws are written that the military works for the civilian political leadership, okay? The President of the United States is our Commander-in-Chief. He makes decisions about what he does with military power. There's a lot of other elements of national power, like diplomacy. Our Secretary of State, Pompeo, he's our chief diplomat, those types of things, right? We want to talk about things before we apply aircraft carriers and tanks and stuff like that. So our secretary talks with all of the other secretaries to figure out what our national strategy is going to be and how we execute it. And I'm going to use has anybody watched the news about Iran? You guys, I mean, simple question, right? But, okay. Can anybody tell me what's going on in Iran? Please just stand up and like, you don't have to be right, because I don't think anybody in here is right about what's going on in Iran. Go ahead, buddy. Thank you. Say, do you need a job, dude? Because that's yeah. About that. Da Vinci once said that simplicity is the essence of sophistication, and that was about the easiest way to describe it. So we are worried about the Iranians and a nuclear program. The Iranians utilize a variety of other actors in the world to try to gain influence, and it's all about power. It's all about power. We're about power, they're about power, but we've sanctioned them to get them to adhere to kind of the international order, and they don't have anywhere else to go. So they've acted out militarily. And so we are sailing carriers and a whole bunch of other things there, while at the same time the Secretary of State is trying to put diplomatic pressure on Iran. That is what this building does. We make those hard decisions. And literally we started the week on a completely different footing than we ended the week, I think, with our response. The secretary talks to the president and the other secretaries, and then there's a senior military officer, and his name is General Joseph Dunford. I'm very proud as a United States Marine that our chairman is a Marine. That's only happened once before, but the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is the senior military advisor to the president and really our nation's highest ranking military officer. His job is to provide the best military advice he can to the politicians and then stand back and let them make political decisions about what America's gonna do. Okay, again, civilian control of the military, but we do our due diligence to say, sir, ma'am, we have gotten this entire building to think about a problem. We've created a variety of information papers and PowerPoint slides of ways we think you should get after it, but at the end of the day, it's your decision to make. Is that fair? You guys tracking? Okay. Now, the Joint Chiefs of Staff represent all of the services. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the National Guard has a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And then there are the combatant commanders. The Joint Chiefs of Staff create the force. So I work with Commandant Neller, General Neller. He's the Marine Corps Commandant. He's responsible to make sure that I know how to wear my uniform, that I'm trained to do my thing. I have the weapons and the equipment that I need and the people to do whatever our political leadership decide. That's General Neller's job as a service chief. But people like U.S. Central Command, if you've ever heard that term, Pacific Command, there are officers that are out around the world who take these forces and they do stuff. Okay? What do I do in this building? As a member of the Joint Staff, I basically have a foot in both buckets. I work for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. My day job is I focus on Russia. Okay? It's about where I'm going to leave that. But I'll answer questions as best I can if you guys want to ask questions about Russia. But then what we do is we see, do the services have enough stuff to compete with or get into conflict with Russia? And then do the commanders in the forward places around the world, specifically Europe and the Pacific, where Russia really touches on both sides, do they have the plans and the assets that they need to be able to, on a day-to-day level, compete with Russia? You know, Russians, anybody see the news about Russian bombers? Right? The Russians fly bombers sometimes near our coastline as sort of a show of their presence. And we fly F-22s right next to the bomber, and it's all about competition. Okay? If you don't have competition, bad things normally happen. So it's a good man defense. We're like my football and basketball players, right? Okay? You want to almost have your hands on that other person the entire time, right? You don't want them out of your sight. If you can't put your hands on them, though, what do? You get between them and the goal. And that's exactly what we do. We posture aircraft or ships or whatever it is so that they come near us, we come near them. There's a balance of power. They see that we can deter or defeat them, just like we see the same thing, and we all go away. That's actually pretty hard to do. So we try to assess whether or not our warfighters have that stuff. Do the services have the stuff that they need to send forces forward? And then a bunch of senior people talk, and guys like me put our hands on our knees and what did we actually accomplish? All we do normally in this building is facilitate a very senior leader conversation, and that is probably the most important thing that occurs in that building. Because, and there's a fantastic book, I doubt many in this audience have read it, okay? But it's called The Art of War. And there is an old Chinese general who wrote that book, and he says that the acme of skill, the highest point of skill, is to defeat the enemy without fighting them. And so that is what we do. We are the Department of Defense and not offense. We don't want to cause wars around the world. We want to protect the American people, American interests, and then make sure that our allies and partners are also very secure. So that's it. That's what we do here. Now, what's behind me? which, as I was walking out, how old are you? So okay, we were right. We were guessing. We didn't know how old you guys were, right? Because most of my young Marines, I just came from a command tour, most of my young Marines were about 19, 20. My wife's a high school teacher, so, I mean, I get them in the high teens. They're driving at that point, right? That's scary for parents. But you guys were basically, I had 3 combat tours before you all were born. And so 9/11 is like me visiting, for you, it's like me visiting Pearl Harbor. And I've been to Pearl Harbor. And I hope you have the same feeling about this memorial that I had when I went to Pearl Harbor, or when I went to Ground Zero. Because interesting for me is I'm from Philadelphia originally. And my parents used to take me once a year to New York City, and we would go see a show on Broadway, and then we would have food at Windows on the World, which is the restaurant at the top of World Trade Center Tower number 1. So when I go there, I get goosebumps, because as a kid, I stood on the ground that is now safe. Okay? I had never actually been to the Pentagon before this tour, but that piece of Pentagon right there has been completely restructured because someone crashed a plane into it on September 11th, 2001. People attacked our country. The last time that had happened, and the reason why I make the connection, is Pearl Harbor. And a lot of people died in this building, 184 people. And so this memorial, which is very interesting, there are nuances about this that you have to really dive in. Like they all point towards where the airplane flew into the building. So the angle of any of those sort of like bench-looking things, if you stand at the end of them and you look at the building, that's the precise location where that airplane hit the building. That's thing number 1. Thing number 2, every single one has the name of one of the people who died on that day etched into it. And then the last part about this that I'd ask you to consider is that underneath all of those benches, there's water. And the architects, can anybody tell me why they put the water there? Okay, the architects who designed...
Someone said reflecting.
Okay, who said that? That is one of the 2 reasons. The second reason is that water represents life. Okay? That the lives of those people that were that were sacrificed for the greater good, frankly, they're reborn again here. And they'll live forever here. Okay? Since September 11th, 2001, we have been in a state of conflict. And if I could tell you anything as a generation away from you, just one, is that it pains me that you have not known a life without war. You've never known that. Now, you guys don't live it every day. You're not like going to combat, shooting stuff. But you've never known the relative peace that I grew up in. Now, the relative peace I grew up in was like Soviet nuclear missiles. So, which is what I do now. But what I would tell you is that yours is the generation that returns us to a state of peace. I was controlling airspace in Yuma, Arizona at the precise moment airplanes hit buildings in New York City and this building over here. By the end of the day, those airplanes had live missiles and I had orders to shoot down an airline with people like you in. Because we just didn't know where the next attack was going to come, and we were basically the barrier between U.S., Mexico, because Yuma, Arizona is on the border to Mexico. But San Diego this way, Phoenix this way, Mexico that way, shoot down an airline. I challenge everybody here, this is what I'm going to leave you with, and then I'll take questions or whatever, to be the generation that returns us to a state of peace. There are ways besides deploying aircraft carriers to get to peace. It's an about talking to each other. The degree of tolerance that exists in your generation that mine did not possess for people who are just straight up different than we are, any of us, is encouraging. Whether it's your gender, your race, your religion, what you believe in, you have a gift. And I don't know when it happened or where it came from, but you all have a gift because the winds of change blow differently now. I'm not telling you that anything is better, but at least the wind, the vane on the top of the barn isn't pointed in a bad direction. And as a guy who literally sees new people come into units, I get older, everybody coming into my unit is exactly the same age. They're like 19 or 20. I'm encouraged. People say a lot of stupid things about your generation. You're affixed to your phones and all of this other, that's crap. You guys, you understand what our climate is doing. You understand who each other are as human beings in ways that my generation and those that came before me just didn't. So that's my challenge to you. This is the Department of Defense. We want to win the peace without fighting. That's my job, and I'll keep doing that until they kick me out. But I challenge you as you walk through hallowed ground for people that gave their lives for the freedoms that we all enjoy. I mean, I have 2 little girls, the most precious thing in my life, 6 and 3. There are lots of other people out there wearing flak jackets and helmets right now that keep my little girls safe and free. Make tomorrow better than today. That's my challenge to you. Okay, I don't know how much time I have, but so I real quick, does anybody have a question? There are no stupid questions, but if you don't ask a question you really wanted to ask, you got to ask yourself, was it stupid of me to do that?
Hold on.
Okay, so how long did I serve in the military? So I graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1998. And now so I consider that I started in the military in 1994, and I've been an officer in the Marine Corps for 21 years as of 2 days ago. Go ahead.
How would you respond if I asked you a question that you can't answer?
That building is full of people with answers. And I am asked questions in my personal life and my professional life that I do not have an answer to. The best answer never comes from one person, even if you're a subject matter expert. You're going to be the world's smartest scientist on something. And if you're the only person who answers the question, you know what the word hubris means? Hubris. That's my academic assignment to everybody here. Look it up. That's arrogance. Okay? If you think you're the only person that can answer any question, you probably become a risk to everyone who asks it. So, if I'm asked a question I don't have the answer to, usually I'm like, amen. I go find some friends.
He was also asking if it's like confidential, like you're asked a question about something that's confidential. What would be? What's your response?
So I work in probably the most classified space in this entire building. I'm pretty certain of that. So I will artfully answer your question, what maybe the root of your question is, without telling you that, oh, okay, well, a spy went into a room and did this. Is that fair? Okay, do you have a follow-on to that then? The question that I can't answer?
Do you have a question you think he can't answer?
Okay. Go ahead, buddy.
Russians are in the North Pole, right?
The Russians are in the North Pole.
I think every major power nation is in the North Pole.
Yeah, so then how's it going up there?
How's it going up there? Well, it's all melting. Although there are lots of people who say it's not. So I'll put it in this context, okay? What is the fastest way to get from Russia to Canada? A straight line across the North Pole, okay? So the first thing is that our climate is changing and the ice is melting. And as, you know, humanity and biology fills in the cracks and seams of things when they appear, business and industry is starting to find a way to reduce the time to ship goods and services to places like China, Europe, America, Canada. So from an economic perspective, we have a new path. There's almost a new Silk Road, another thing you can look up, that connects basically the Western and Eastern hemispheres. That's a good thing, if you're into that. Militarily, it's uncharted territory. And uncharted territory is bad for people like me because it becomes the Wild West. Okay, I get my hair cut every Sunday at the exact same time. I like order, I like discipline, and I like things that, and I have 2 young girls who just violate those principles every single day. And that's okay. All right, chaos is a good thing in my house. All right, their mom is amazing. But whenever in a military sense there is disorder, like Iran, there's tension, and there's a potential for miscalculation and mistakes, and a young person, I mean, I would be considered young in this context, not a senior policymaker, decision maker, trying to do the right thing, but then kicking off a war. So the U.S. is in the Arctic. China, Russia are in the Arctic. Believe it or not, there are a number of Middle Eastern countries in the Arctic. Because what's in the bottom of the Arctic potentially? Yes, energy. It all comes down to that right there. It's about money. That's why I started with the economy. Because it is about securing your national economic interests in the Arctic, and then the defense of those economic interests, and. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm sorry, I actually have good hearing. It's just actually for you. Say that again. Iran got nuclear power. So first of all, nuclear power, energy, is a right. To try to secure your own national energy interests has been a long established thing. And there is a curse of geography for some countries that don't have the ability to be parked right on top of major deposits of oil and stuff like that. And so Iran has lots of petrochemicals that they're sitting on top of. So they've got that going for them. But that's their primary, they're what we call a petro state. You know, you don't buy a lot of toys or computers that say made in Iran, right? I mean, does anybody have any of that stuff? I'd be interested to take that from you and never let you use that again, right? But because there's probably cyber vulnerabilities in it. But so Iran have petrochemicals, but they're trying to. Do you guys think that we're going to have petrochemicals, oil coming out of the ground, natural gas forever? And again, you are a much more aware generation. So the long term of it is that you can harvest uranium from the ground, right? And you can create a nuclear reactor. Well, what does a nuclear reactor do? It turns the lights on. How many people here have ever actually been to the Middle East? It's really hot there, okay? The Emirates, man, I thought I was going to fall over dead. It was like 120-something degrees and like 100% humidity in Dubai. But so just to cool things, to eat, to all of that, they needed to secure that. So I went the circuitous route to your answer because to get nuclear power is not a bad thing. And in fact, the Iran nuclear deal, as they call it, the JCPOA, provided considerations for the Iranian regime to get nuclear power. It's about nuclear weapons, though. So Iran got nuclear from a nuclear perspective. Okay? Nuclear weapons were designed in World War II because we bombed you with tonnage. So, quick history lesson. We killed more people in Japan with the firebombing of Tokyo than both atomic bombs combined. Horrific that the air was so hot that people spontaneously combusted. That's not a joke. That's what firebombing is. It makes the air so hot everything just catches on fire, including people. Well, what we did was we showed the Japanese, who were in kamikaze mode, they were crashing into ships and trying to change our decision calculus, that with a single bomb we could start taking whole cities off the map. And if they wanted to get it into attrition warfare, i.e. we're just going to kill each other and whoever has the most people left alive wins, that we would win that fight. And they capitulate. Okay? Since then, we've built huge stockpiles of these things because we thought we would fight wars. We learned lessons about those things like, oh my gosh, they've created strategic imbalances in the world, and oh, by the way, we can destroy the globe 15 times over. End of the day, we're trying to reduce the number of nuclear weapons, not increase them. When you have regimes that sponsor terrorist organizations, that execute malign influence all over the globe, you don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. Kim Jong-un in Korea, same thing. So the idea is, hey everybody, we want to reduce nuclear weapons, not proliferate them. So if Iran were to get a nuclear weapon, they would add one more facet to the gem that is the end of the world. We don't want to have that happen. We want to reduce that. So that is why we have exerted maximum pressure against the Iranian regime and the North Korean regime, because they believe that their key to regime survival is a nuclear weapon. Because America won't attack because, we can shoot nukes at them. The problem is that all of these acme of skill, defeat the enemy without fighting them, a lot of our problems can eventually be worked out over time by talk. The challenge is, and this is your political system, and I'm a military officer, so I don't ever step in the political arena. Our politicians are elected forever? No, right? They have terms, and they have to get reelected. So sometimes politicians on all sides do things timed appropriately to allow them to get reelected or, to get some sort of regime vote. So it's hard to get a continuous strategy against a specific country, because if the person in office today gets voted out, but you got the new guy, and the new guy wants to do things the new guy's way, and then the new guy gets voted out and the new gal comes in, and she wants to do things her way. So sometimes from an allies and partners perspective, we kind of bang all over the place, but your point is really, really well timed in that we do not want Iran to have nuclear weapons because we are trying to reduce them in the globe and resolve our differences by talk. All right, I probably have one more.
I was going to give you one more question. For anyone who's considering going into the military, what's your number one advice for them now at this age?
So if you want to be in the military, let's say you're 14.
Anybody here is considering military?
Just thinking about how many years. Okay. So, first of all, we're not the bad guy. Okay? So, reading about history and what militaries have done is important. Okay? There are some that have demonized some of the things that militaries have done over the long war against terror. I started by talking about we are controlled by a civilian government. And we commit ourselves, whether you like it or not, to protect and defend every American. I might not like you very much. I might completely disagree with your politics. I might not like the fact that you have a giant green mohawk. Okay? But guess what? I don't choose. I don't choose. So, doing a little bit of research on how the militaries have fought wars over the years is item number one. Item number two is learn about the service that you're interested in. I went to Annapolis because I saw a movie called Top Gun. Actually, I was a rowing recruit, but I wanted to go into the Navy and fly F-14 Tomcats because I saw a cool movie and I just wanted to be that guy. I am not in the Navy, and man, am I happy about that, okay? Right? It says Marines on my uniform, not submarines, because I like the sun, okay? I realize that I like being outside. I like camping, I like shooting, I like just being out. And what I really like is tribes. I like groups of people. I like getting people together and when I was a squadron commander, we had a mixed martial arts competition that I competed in. And I'm not that good, okay? I got my butt kicked, to be honest, okay, by a guy who was like 20. I mean, he tossed me around like a rag doll, I'll be honest. But you know what? Good, right? Because this thing right here doesn't define who you are. It shouldn't. How much money you make, what your rank is, all that stuff shouldn't define who you are. It's your character that defines who you are. So understand your service. I wanted to be a Marine because the Marine Corps values that motto of character. Honor, courage, and commitment is the Navy creed, but Marines are about character. And that isn't to disparage the Navy. I wanted to be a part of an organization that was tribal in nature. It can get up close and personal with people, and I like the sun, okay? I did some time on a ship, man, and that sucks, okay? It's just, I was like, I need to go outside. And every time I went outside, there was people like chain smoking. And I'm like, oh my God, and I can't take this either. All right? And then the last thing is for all of you, because if you're around 13, 14 now, all right, around 18 if you want to enlist, or if you want to become an officer, you got to go to college. So in like the 22, if you're around 22, you guys better start doing more math. Okay? The math teacher cheering, okay? But so, I have a boss who his job is he's in the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center. He works in this building. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, unmanned systems, data links, computers. Man, if you just use your iPad to play Angry Birds or whatever the coolest thing is now, Fortnite, I'm trying to stay cool, guys. I'm trying to stay cool.
Fortnite.
If you're just using your iPad to do that and you want to be a military member, that's probably not the best use of your time. My 6-year-old can code in Python, okay? And she's going to smoke you when she's older, okay? But I say that as kind of a challenge because anymore, and this is, by the way, this is my last pitch. Who here wants to make a lot of money when they grow up? Okay, all you military people, put your hands down. Don't do that, okay? It is a self-serve world, guys. Okay? I've worked with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, who invented the internet. And the idea is if you want something fixed, make an app that does it. You know, code this, do that. That comes from mathematics. That comes from science and technology, electrical engineering. I mean, I love history, and I got a political science degree from the Naval Academy, right? But ever since then, I've been getting master's degrees in computer-aided things. So even if you don't want to be in the military, pay a lot of attention in math class, pay a lot of attention in science class, because your future is not in philosophy. No disrespect to the philosophy professors here, okay? Those things create art. And I end with, STEAM is not STEM. Is STEM? Everyone knows what STEM is, right? Okay? STEM is a dead horse. We need to shoot it and move on. Okay? Because arts and science absolutely encourage innovation. 100%. Math is 2 + 2 if you don't know what to do with it, right? Because if you want to talk about 2 + 2, well, if I have 2 apples and I get 2 more apples, I have 4 apples. The question is, what do I want to do with the apples? I want to sell it. I want to feed people. I want to do a variety of things. You have to connect that mathematics to some sort of applied art, some function. And that's what we do in the military. We take a lot of science and technology. We take a lot of bombs that can blow stuff up. And we try to apply that in a way that does not start the war, it ends it before we ever shoot. Does that make sense? So I thank you for your time. I'll kind of wander around. I have to.
Can you sit and take a picture real quick, or have
sure.
everyone stand around you? I don't know if you want to sit, but
But
just
enjoy the rest of your time.
everybody,
Thank you.
thank you.